it's very complex for us Africans when we come here, because the parenting we knew was back home. You know,
The model.
yeah, it's what we knew is akikosa kiboko, you know. And then you come here, and then you could get into trouble with the police. So parenting can be very complex for us Africans living in the diaspora. And it's even more complex. For us, it's even more complex because we are at our age, we are the first generation. There's no one else to look up to. There's no one else to say, oh, so and so they parented like this. People are looking at us now. So when we came and we didn't know, I think that can also be a source of conflict, especially when the children grow older. Because we tend to parent the way we were parented. I'll parent the way I was parented. Sam will parent the way he was parented. And this becomes conflict. When they become older, they, children are cute. They are cute. But when especially that preteen and teens, they become very manipulative. And they know how to manipulate. I remember hearing one of my daughters saying to the father one day, let's go to the shop and don't take mom. Because mom will stop you from spending money. They know dad is a spender, dad is the soft one. He will buy whatever they want, so they would rather go with dad. So you see, kids can be very manipulative. So again, as a couple, you need to sit down and discuss how you're going to take a joint approach in parenting, because children need stability. Children need a stable environment. They don't need a situation where one parent is saying this, the other parent is saying that. One parent is facing north, the other one is facing south. They become destabilized, and that affects their well-being. So you need to decide, how are we going to parent our children? And again, if you find you are disagreeing, go for help. I did a parenting program called Tuning Into Kids. Sammy, I can't remember what happened. I didn't want to do it with Sammy,
yes.
But he never got to do it. And it was an eye-opener. And I felt sorry for my children, because I was doing try and error, because we don't know. You do try and error in parenting. But when I did that it's about emotional intelligence. It's about you teaching your child to be emotionally intelligent. We never did things like that in Kenya. We just you just become a mother. Nobody tells you, and you start to parent. So I think if I was starting life now as a young mother, I would take advantage of those parenting programs. You don't have to. Sometimes people think you do them if you're having problems parenting. No, you can just do them so that you get some strategies that you can use, especially when they get to that age, preteens and teenager. That's when it's the most difficult.
I would say parenting is exactly what she's saying, and that's what we've done. We've been lucky in some situations, and we probably have had semi-crisis from time to time, especially with the youth, and not anything too big. What I would say, parenting sometimes is about role modeling. It's a girl like my girls would like to know, what did mom do, in this situation when she was in school, and telling stories. Don't tell them too late. They should be knowing how your life was. Even if it was abject poverty, let them know. They might not find it interesting, but one day they will relate to it. This was how she got herself out of this kind of thing. So I remember, like, the big one is that when I left Kenya for Botswana, I went on a plane. But when my children came from Kenya to Botswana, they came on a train, 7 days, 7 nights, and they're very young. And she had the kids and whatever you carry with the kids, a long, long journey. And there was a reason, because everything collapsed as I left. Business collapsed, everything collapsed. We have people, including very close people to us, who took from us. And when the family had to come, I was saying, wait. Just because I was saying, I must be rich enough to buy you tickets. And mom decided, now, put them in a train, and I'll take them on the way. That story, she has told it to people. Some people ask, I heard this. But my daughters would be like, Us, we didn't fly. We were always rich. No, they came by train. And it's a long distance, many countries, a lot of challenges. But when you hear what mom could handle by herself, I didn't know they are coming this day until I heard a phone from the immigration. We are sending back a family. Is this yours? We don't know where they're going. They don't seem to know where you stay. Is it you? And I said, yes. If I said no, because I would have been confused, they would have been sent back. So, and when they arrived, my story, I told them my story. What happened is these 7 months, trials, tribulations, whatever they were. So they build these things in, no, not just telling them we are parenting, they see the sacrifice you have taken. So don't worry about those stories being boring. They might be something that these kids will use. The other thing, parenting comes from the culture. Take what's good or what can work for your family. I remember Obama being bought a big bed because he was sleeping in a big bed in America, and the grandmother had not taken the measurement of the door. So they had to break the heart where Obama had to go and sleep because the bed would not have come in. So there are things we can import from Kenya, but when they come here, they can't get into our systems. Go to talk to people like Teresia, and there are plenty of social workers. And there used to be very few in our community. Now there are many. Talk to social workers. People in Kenya don't know what social workers are. Sometimes we say we don't want government into our homes because we feel that is intrusion. She can explain how the government ends up being in your home and how things can be so bad. Sometimes we don't want police, man, a woman calling police. It's healthy. If there's something happening that is going out of her, this guy would end up in prison. Sometimes here we report to the police because we used to report to our grandfathers, our chief, our mother-in-laws. They are not here and they will not be here until time. So as much as we want to, to be on top of parenting, it's challenging. One of our kids calling police saying, Mom has taken my car, and it's my car. And she was asked, did you buy it? Where is the car parked? Outside our house. Is it yours? No, Mom bought it, but it's mine. And then the police said, no. So parenting is so interesting. And it's you make decisions. They'll be shared by children. They'll be shared by the other partner. But having a structure, like Teresia said, is very, very important.
They're very important because, they give us identity, who we are. That's our ritual. That's our tradition. And especially for children growing in the diaspora, like our children, they need that because they get lost in this Western society and they lose themselves and they go through identity crisis. So in our family, we have some traditions that we have held very closely. One of that is that we have brought up our children in church ever since they were little, and they were very active, both of them, starting in New Zealand because they mostly grew up in New Zealand. They they did all sorts of things as, surfing in the church, singing in the choir, participating in church. And we do that because children learn by modeling. You model the behavior you want your children to learn. And then on top of that, they got very involved in extracurricular activities. We were lucky in New Zealand. We had flexible jobs that we did Monday to Friday. And our weekend and part of the weekdays were taken by sports. The whole weekend, they both played netball to very high levels, including playing for the council, for the government. I think, I can't remember. It was the local government. And that included a lot of travel, going to many places. And we embraced that. They did music, competitions and gigs, and we just followed them everywhere we went. And we had a number of years where we were just so busy with their extra curriculum. They did modeling, they did all those things. And we have to do them because that boosts self-esteem, boosts confidence. And also, I mean, we are not so good in that, but I admire families where the children speak the native language. Unfortunately, we didn't, I think because we moved a lot from Kenya to Botswana. I think in Botswana they lost Swahili. So I admire families that teach the children the language. Now, talking about ritual, my daughter got married about 2 years ago, and she got married to a Ghanaian man. So, you know, who doesn't know our culture. And we were quite clear that, you know, I said to her, when I got married, we did the Kikuyu ratio. And I told her, I would really want if you can go through that. And she was like, oh, wow, this is quite big. She was researching everywhere. And we connected her with a younger couple because, you know, we are parents. They were not going to be free with us with everything. And they were really supported and helped to understand that culture, to understand the importance of that ritual. So it's very important as a family that you decide this is what is important for our family, and this is how we are going to bring up our children and educate the children, because they don't know. My daughter had no idea about dowry. She thought it is selling, and she said, Mom, I don't want to be sold. That's what she said. And so we had to explain through the person that we got to support them that we are not selling you. No one would ever afford you. So educate them because they don't know some of those rituals. Yeah.
Well, we know, like from African culture, one very important ritual is birth, then marriage, then what we'd call and anything that might relate to death, burial. Like my father died in 2018. That was very important for my family to support me and go through whatever they could go through. And now we feel our dad is resting in peace. So what I would mention here is that we actually respect our culture. We feel proud to be Kikuyu people. We feel proud to be Kenyans. We've been to Botswana, where tradition and your clan and your tribe is very important, such that they have a government that has a bicameral parliament. One of it deals with the culture of the people, their identity, Bamangwato, whoever else. And to see the truth, we have actually worked hard towards that. When we came here from New Zealand, we found that Australian Kenyans actually just live just like that. There wasn't much happening. At least Mr. Jaja and his group, they had come with the men forum, but that a lot of people thought it hadn't included the women or the children, although the men were thinking about, you know, the family and the community. And when we came here, we started a community organization called Community Beam. I don't know whether you've ever heard about it. And what we were talking to Kenyans is that it's not just about us, it's people having the same experience with us. What tools do they pick from their traditions or from what they have heard from the diaspora to make sure that they will be the ones to make sure that the kids are not just walking into pits and loops and things that will trip them. And what we were fighting for as a culturally and linguistically diverse people, and Kenyans are, Kikuyus are, you and me are, in a place like this where we have the mainstream, you have to have a spine, and your spine is identity. Because people ask you, who are you? Are you a monkey that came up the tree? Your house was up the tree, whatever. Did you even use a fork and knife? It's not about telling them that we had more fork and knives than when I visited near a place. You just have one set, we have 10. And in Kenya, we had 50. It's not, they don't respect you on that. It's if they're asking you, what is your identity? If you can't answer that question as a kid, as a man, as a grandfather here, then we have a problem. because then this guy will just crush you. That was bro number one, it went just straight into you. But your defense is my tradition. But you have to know it, and you have to educate the kids. And that's why for our daughters, something like birthdays were very important. We usually celebrate the normal birthdays they know, but then we also go out into the Kenyan way of doing the cake and things like that. And we make sure there's a lot of people, not just kids, like a lot of people just put the kids there and that's it. It's their business. We end up the whole community. Then when it comes to somebody who has an issue, there's a funeral somewhere, we always insist, if it's in the family, even the kids, even if they're earning in McDonald's, to contribute. These people need support. This is a time to empathize with them. When it comes to marriages and weddings, we have tried to be part and parcel, either committees if we are invited. We take our kids along. As recently, a certain doctor who is, I don't have to mention his name, his son was marrying somebody in Sydney. We all went as a troop, even for Patricia, all of us. So we try to participate in all these things because you can probably not be able to tell the kids, this is what the tradition is. They need to see. And even if you say it's whatever it is, yes. So generally, we just, like we said, we bring in what we can. If it's been modified by other people, yes. But sometimes you have to draw the line. Are we doing the right thing? Because kids will later on reference a book that was written about you and say, you've been lying to me, mom. A girl was just being sold. And now you're telling me that wasn't the situation. So we bring experts. Like there's a guy, you know him, he's called Mushiri. When it comes to our community, consult him because he knows and he has taken trouble. And he won't tell you something that tomorrow will be contested and it's wrong. So we are always very careful about these sort of things. And I would say it was an important question to ask. We cannot exhaust it now. But a lot of our kids who are growing up, being very confident, they get to the age of 15, 16, they collapse, is because they cannot project their roots with their future. And unlike the people who are born here, unlike Asians who always keep, Chinese, they always keep their culture and their traditions very close. We are getting a little bit loose in that, saying the money and going to church is enough, but it's not enough.
Yeah, don't beat them. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We got beaten. It really doesn't work. And the reason why people do that is, you're right, they don't know how else to do. The best thing you can do, and I'm talking here as a mother who has parented in Australia with all the challenges, Australia and New Zealand, the best thing you can do is to create the relationship with your child. Children are very smart. They're very, very smart. So have a relationship with them, get talking to them so that they understand you. There are so many. You can use a reward system. I remember we used it in New Zealand when our children was younger. So we used to call them $2 shop. Here they are called reject shop. And you buy the stickers. And so when they do good stuff, they get sticker. When they do something good, they get sticker. And then when they have a number of stickers, they get a reward. It may be going to the zoo when you have 5 stickers. So if they want to go to the zoo, you get them to work for it. And they are really, really good. And as they get older, you get them to choose the reward they want and the system they want you to use. Because as they get older, the stickers don't work. So there are, this is why I said, if you're struggling with parenting, do a parenting programs, because that's where you learn such things. You learn how to communicate with your child. Sit down with your children and talk to them about what would you like us? Talk about, this is what I want you to do. Sometimes when you don't do the right thing, what do you want us to do about it? Let them think about the consequences of not doing the right thing. And they might say, okay, for example, you do a chore roster, yeah? We've done our chore roster. When you're doing the chore roster, include a column, what will happen if people don't wash the dishes, if it was their day to wash the dishes. Let them participate in deciding the consequences, because they will not do it because they know the consequences. And of course, you direct them, because the consequences will be like you don't get screen time if you haven't done your chores. Or the consequences is that that thing that you've been wanting your parents to buy, you lose points. I know a family that has a point system where everything they do, they get points. If they do something wrong, the points are taken off. Well, that's that family, and that works for them. Look for a system that works for you, but beating does not work, and it can get you into trouble. In this country, not as bad, but in New Zealand, if you smacked a child, it's a criminal offense. It can be taken to court. In Australia, I think it's debatable, but you can still find yourself in court. And also, it really doesn't work. Those children, they go to school, they talk with their counterparts, and they say they are beaten, and their counterparts tell them you are being abused. So they grow up knowing my parents are abusive. I'm being abused. So this is not Kenya. Talk to, seek support. Call an organization, if you're struggling, or go online and Google parenting program. I love the emotional intelligence one, because it really teaches a child to be emotionally intelligent. And this is what you need in a society like this. Because if they're emotionally intelligent, then they will know that if I don't do my chores, the family will suffer, because the family is a system. If I'm not doing my part in the family will suffer. And they become better citizens when they understand that concept. So, yes, I understand. People will say, well, but I got beaten and I was okay. That was okay then. Now it's not. Your child will be bullied at school. If they go and they say they get beaten, other kids start to pick on them. Oh, you must be naughty, that's why you get bullied. Then they start to be bullied. So please don't beat them. Look for a system that works, and the systems are there, and there are many. And if you don't know, look for a parenting program and do one.
I'm very lucky that Teresa is a professional in that area. I didn't know about the government being so nosy until we went to New Zealand. And I think after 3 or 4 years of staying in New Zealand, one of the biggest bills they had to go through was the anti-smacking.
Yeah, smacking bill.
And what people were saying, no, we must smack our children. It's written in the Bible. Spare them, spoil the child. And it's in New Zealand, it's a criminal offense. And kids go and show their teachers. And some kids in New Zealand used to go and say, Daddy Kunyan here. And they would see bruises. They say, okay, this is a big thing. And some people have gotten themselves in problems. So discipline must be there, because you always see in every organization they talk about this. We have got our set of rules. We got our SOPs. We have to be disciplined, because this is a system that must be run well when the cogs are oiled and all the gear systems are working. Similarly with the family, but then it has to be started very early. Like saying, myself, I would say men sometimes even forget that the ladies quickly learn from even the ones who are not social workers. They ask, what is working? Sometimes we don't talk about our family and their discipline to other men. Men talk about other things, probably politics or sports, whatever. I would say we should be followers and supporters of the system that the lady wants to use to bring discipline. Because majority of the time, and we say this a lot in Kikuyu, that mutimia kaga mushie na shiko shake. So majority of the time, mutimia no adharie mushie na moko make. That mushie was not just building an edifice, this big house. It is that structure, because she will actually include you, and she will include the children. And she'll decide, let's honor Dad, let's respect him. And if I cannot deal with this kid, the high court will be going to that. And, she's just staying next to this judge. So she's already given the judge the background. And hopefully, the judge will go and enforce what the leader wants to do. Sometimes we do it as two camps. And the kids start praying us, and making us also correct. And they also listen. Dad, didn't you say that when we're in McDonald's, that mom is being very harsh on us, And now the kids are telling mom, Dad is having some talk about discipline on the side, or he's saying I'm the good person. So long as we work together and let them know, it's just like a team elsewhere. If the discipline is good, then the achievements and the speed at which we achieve will be quicker. And then, as she says, the reward system works very, very well.
Can I add on older children? Because that's where the challenge comes. Because if they are working, they don't care about the reward. What are you going to reward them? And they work and they have their money. When they get older, that's when it is most challenging, especially young adults living at home. That is very challenging because they are not children and they're adults, but
they're still children.
Yeah, the frontal lobe has not developed. The frontal lobe of the brain developed at the age of 25. And that causes a lot of issues for parents. What I've learned, and I wish I had learned earlier, is the best thing for young adults or old teenagers, build a relationship with them. Don't get into, just let them be. And also realize that we are not in Africa. And I say this openly to parents, and I know this is controversial. They live in a world where they choose their sexual identity. They choose who they want to be. Let's be realistic. We are not living in Africa. Let's love our children, who they are. Let's embrace them. Let's just be real and build relationship with our children so that they can talk to you about the challenges. Because when they get to that young adult, it's not so much the discipline. It is the challenges they face out there. And if you don't have that relationship with them, they cannot tell you. So they are struggling alone and they are not sharing this with anyone because they don't feel safe. Especially if there are things that we do not accept. If we are caught up in our ways, we build bridges with our children, and we cannot support them when they need us most. So discipline, but when they're young adults, relationship. We have to have relationship with them.
There's probably a small point I would add here. I'd say exactly what she's saying. If we got a little bit scientific about like what we call a disease prevalence, like say like COVID, it was more prevalent in New South Wales and where? And Victoria. That means we had more lockdown, and especially here. But if you start stratifying the reasons, you're looking for the reasons. You go to the ladies, how did they contribute? The kids, how did they contribute? The nature of housing, like the ones we have with a lot of immigrants, how did they contribute? We start now having a big brain game. Blaming game in something that we should ask ourselves, how did it go this way? And it is the community actually that matters at the end of the day. When we start saying African kids are gangsters and things like that, it's not about you, because your kid will be friends by another kid who is a friend, and they see what goodies they're getting from the easy life, sleeping around, talking to older ladies when they're young boys, all these sort of things. But even as parents, we have to know these children are exposed to these things. We have actually need to know what is happening in the community so that we can turn around and say, is this something I would retain at home? But if you saw your daughter wear what they call tubokat in Kenya, she's showing her midleaf, and you're going crazy, you can't do that. If you do that, I'll throw you out of the house. You might tell her your grandmother is around, please. I don't think this is something that you will appreciate. Sometimes, maybe even dad is not very comfortable with this. But if you're going for the ball, my daughter will drop you wearing that kind of thing because you have to look like your friends. Because kids put things in the bag and immediately they get out of your car, they go to the public toilets and they change. And if somebody tells that was your daughter, you go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That does not make our kids feel like they're criminals because they know it's innocent. The girl will wear like that in Africa, actually, follow her. She's probably doing strange things. But here it's not necessary. So we have to stratify issues. Is it happening here? It's happening here. Is the reason? Is it a big thing here? A lady wearing a bikini here is not nothing, even if it is straight. What about right in the middle of Nyeri, even if there was a big flood and she wanted to have a swim? People will be saying, she's crazy. So really, what we need to do is to loosen up. But who is loosening up? If a gentleman came with a family yesterday just because he got a big job with one of the IT companies here, he was earning 200,000 in Kenya, and now he's earning 1 million Kenya shillings here, and wife is happy to come, kids are happy to come, and the kids that just started going to the high schools here, and they're picking these things. Don't you expect the dad to be going mad? Why have you just changed? You can't do this in my life, in my family. Or mom saying, no, you can't do that. And a huge conflict will develop. It is important that when these families come in, we find people who are around them. What we always say, the concept of kumi kumi, because we cannot all come to your house to advise your friends. But somebody who is closer, they know someone, or somebody they're going to school with, somebody who's going the same church, to be a person who can bring these people to the speed of what is happening. And parents, despite the money, despite the grammar, this would be the challenges, drugs and things like that. So I would say community, we should challenge ourselves. And we should also challenge ourselves in how we react to things, because sometimes we are overreacting, and that is not helpful. I would like to talk to the gentleman, because I know it's a huge challenge being a man here. Immediately I land in Nairobi, my friends are pulling me away from the ladies and saying, can we go to the pub? Can we go do this? And dropping me back home at midnight. And nobody will ask me where you are. But here, it's different. The culture is different. Men are not getting socialized enough. And therefore, we feel isolated. And when a problem comes in our isolation, we haven't shared it with anyone, we will always end up maybe looking at ourselves. It's me being criticized. It's me being all that. I'm being isolated, I'm not being honored, I'm not being respected. But what I would say is that, guys, it is very important for us to somehow look after each other. And the other thing is, I plead with the ladies, we haven't stopped loving you. We haven't changed. But we also need, some bit of empathy in that we are now in a society. Either we are going to join a group of our neighbors who drink in the streets or do whatever, who might be not part of our culture and won't fit. So we being isolated more than the ladies, we are taking far much more stress. We are bedding our culture more. We are the ones who are washing dishes that we never used to. We are the ones cleaning the toilets that we never used to. It's not a bad thing, but somebody would look at us and say, these guys are doing well in the transition. So that is one message I want to say, that as far as the money is good, yes, but then the quality of life has to change in the diaspora. We have to worry about our families. We have also to remember, in the past, while in Kenya, your mother will be asking you, you feed your man, you look after a man in bed because he'll be taken away. Here, maybe not, and nobody probably even cares. But the most important thing is that if you care about your family and the outcomes 20, 50 years from now, all those ingredients that are important in life must be contained in that African pot. Love for each other, care for each other, care for our children, and also care for what I care for, if it's my mother, or my brother, or something like that, and caring for the community. I'm asking the ladies to look after their men very well, but also I'm asking the men to remember there's Valentine and things like that that matters here. Sometimes walk home with a surprise, a bunch of flowers behind your back. Small things, chocolates if your wife likes it. Sometimes getting somebody to take care of the children and you guys getting a getaway to have 2 days away from the children, have all other hassles. Anyway, at the end of the day, we come from a great continent. We are very rich and we are positioning ourselves globally to be effective. And it has to start with culture. See how the Asians have done, especially the Indians. We have the first prime minister who is not from England ruling in the UK. You can see how they do well is because culture is very important and everybody is respecting each other. Even us as Africans, we are not going to go anywhere with the bags of money. We are going to go somewhere being together and strengthening our family and remembering our identity. Thank you, guys.
I think for me, I would like to talk to families. It breaks my heart when I see a family breaking down, parents going their separate way, and the children being caught in the middle. Divorce can be traumatic for children. It can cause trauma that will go on to impact on the children when they grow older. So let's protect our families. Let's protect our marriages. Remember, like we said, a marriage is like a plant. If you don't look after it, it will die. Go out, go for holiday. If you have children, get a babysitter every now and then. We used to do that a lot in New Zealand when our children were younger. Go out for a date, dress up, go out for a date with your partner. Do things that you used to do when you didn't have children. Go on a cruise, just do things together. I know we came here to work. As people say, we are here to work. But, we need to build our family. So let's not just prioritize work. Let us prioritize our families, our marriages. Divorce can be very destructive. I've seen so many of them in my line of work. And sometimes all you need is to have some of the structures that we have talked about. Remember the structures, conflict resolution, support system, and also tapping on what the government is providing in terms of support. This is the support from your networks, and this is the support from the government that are many. And in terms of parenting, it is hard to parent in this country. I think it's easier to parent when they are younger, but it gets increasingly harder and more difficult to parent as they become teenagers and as they become adults. You're not alone. Talk to other people who are parenting, pick their brains on what they have done, what has worked, what has not worked. Don't do it alone because it is difficult. And also remember, if you're struggling in a marriage or if you're struggling in parenting, you are not alone. In Kikuyu, we say mishine dogo. We might think your neighbor's home is the best, but they probably have worse problem than yours. So reach out. There's so much. We live in a country where the government is putting in so much money into families. So reach out and access some of those systems. If you don't know where to go, always start with your GP. If you don't know where to go, start with your GP. Tell them you're feeling stressed because of ABCD, and then they will suggest places that you can go. and also I know in our community, the Kenyan community, we have KCV, they have mental health liaison people, they have youth, people who deal with youth, there's the Men Forum, all those groups, and even the KCV readers. Reach out to them if you are struggling. Do not sit and struggle alone, because we live in a country that is full of support system, but you must reach out. And also remember, those systems are not for the dysfunctional families, because that's what people think. Oh, I'm not going to go there. They're going to think I'm dysfunctional. Functioning families, Australian families access those systems each and every day. So please reach out and let's grow our community. Let's grow strong marriages that are full of love and fun, and children who are nurtured because they are growing up in loving families, in families that have love for each other. Thank you very much.